Well, hello, my friends. It's been a while, but I got a call from my good friend Emily Sweeney, Globe reporter, saying, "Hey, you want to talk about that thing that happened on the MBTA?" And I said, "Absolutely," because this has something. We are intimately related to this whole event, right? Emily Sweeney from the Globe, because part of our long history occurred on this actual line. I'll tell the story because I'll tell it super fast. I go
Mhm.
way back with Emily, but one morning, I don't know, about 6 years ago or so. No, 3 years ago, I guess. I'm at the one of the stations on the Orange Line. I see a person looks like Emily, and I think that can't be Emily. I dismissed it, and it was. And it turns out we were taking the same train. She was going to work to be there at 6. I was taking the train home, getting off at 5, and so many a morning we would ride the very same T, maybe even the same car, Emily, that burst into flames on a bridge. And you're here, and of course, it's only right that you are the Boston Globe reporter to cover this big event. And are you the tea person? Do they come to you for the
No,
tea stories a lot?
no. We actually have a dedicated transportation reporter, Taylor. She's amazing. The story that we wrote, I co-wrote with her. And yeah, she covers transportation all the time. Me, I cover breaking news. So in this instance, I was one of the first reporters to jump on it, like when it happened, because I was working, early in
Yeah.
the morning.
So that's both. It's both breaking news and transportation.
Yes.
Okay. So what happened?
Yeah, so I gotta say, this is like one of the craziest stories about the tea I've ever written. I got to interview a woman who was on the train. She was on the first car that caught on actual fire, and she was just telling me that as they were approaching the bridge, they started hearing like a series of bangs, kind of like underneath the car of the train, and everybody's like, "What the hell's going on?" When they looked out the windows, there were flames leaping up on both sides of the train car. And that's when everybody started freaking out, she said. A guy ran to the emergency exit, and started like trying to open it. It wouldn't open. So that this was the guy that kicked out the first window. He jumped on a seat, kicked out the window. And she told me that people just started throwing themselves out the window. Like she was shocked. She said it was actually disturbing too, because a lot of people were shoving and just people were jumping, like not even knowing, what they were jumping
Yeah,
down
right.
to.
So let's back up.
Sure.
The first thing that people see are flames coming
And they
from
smelled
both.
something burning as well.
Okay. Is there smoke in the car?
There was some smoke, but at least they could smell smoke, something burning. I think the first sign when people really freaked out was seeing the flames out the window, again on both sides at one point.
Flames out the window, both sides. Did they
Yes.
give you any idea how high the flames came up?
Not really, but I mean, if you think about it, flames being visible from a train car on both sides, I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
I
I could,
guess.
I can understand being some concern or like a sense
Was
of alarm.
were there screeching, scraping sounds of undiluted evil? Was
But
it like right,
yeah, from the fiery pits of hell, possibly. I don't know.
all right. I did hear that the person heard some sound. It
Yeah,
got loud. It
series of
got
bangs. Yeah.
increasingly loud, and then there were flames shooting up from beside, some sort of acrid or some sort of smoke. I can only imagine it would be acrid.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how
no,
I imagine all train related smoke.
yeah.
So
It
what
was.
was? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So I mean, basically, it was just complete chaos. Okay, on the train car. She told me when she got up to the window because she figures she's gonna evacuate like everybody else. She got up there and she looked down and she's like, oh my god, like there's the third rail, number one, and she's like, it's a huge drop. You don't really think about how high it is. You know what I mean? From a seat down. And what if there's a car, like a train starts coming from the other direction? You know what I mean? Like these are all very
Yeah.
logical concerns. And she's in the window and people are trying to push her out the window. Okay.
Yep.
She manages to get back in. Okay. And then finally, this is the first sign of an MBTA employee that she saw. The conductor comes out and is yelling at people to stay on the train.
Right. Which I would want to do. I would want to stay on the train.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would not want to like throw myself out a window without knowing exactly what's going on, and you know what I mean.
I do.
So the train operator actually, he was able to open the emergency door. They start herding everybody into the second car, which meanwhile is total chaos because they saw the flames too and started kicking out windows. So they're coming in, and the woman I interviewed said that they're trying to explain to people what's happening. You know what I mean? That there was a small fire. We don't know. The question is like, why wasn't like something said over the loudspeaker? I don't know if it was like shorted out or not working, but nobody knew what the hell was going on. So again, you now that they're in the second car, suddenly she hears somebody yell, "Don't do it! Don't jump!" And a woman,
Sorry.
if things weren't crazy enough, jumps down off the bridge into the Mystic River. Now, this is a huge drop.
I know. We'll get to all that. After you tell the
Okay.
story, I'll have just the
Yeah.
specific question. So, woman jumps off the bridge, right?
Yes. So this woman jumps off the bridge. So the eyewitness I interviewed says she lands and they see her doggy paddling towards shore. I later spoke to the Somerville fire chief, right? And I was like, why did he said that there was a training boat nearby, luckily, and so the fire boat went up to her and was like, "Hey, like, come on the boat," and she didn't want to. She wanted to swim, and they gave her a life preserver, like or something, and she went to shore and apparently walked away.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
So,
uh, yeah.
when you're ready, I have questions.
Oh God. Well, so the eyewitness I spoke to said that they were on the bridge. It seemed like forever, right? Finally, they disable the third rail. They tell everybody to get off the train, but pretend the rail is alive still. So everybody's nervously like going over the rails, and they walk back to the stop where they came from, which is Wellington. Which,
Wellington, that's the stop I used to get on.
that's our stop, Bradley. I
It's our
know.
stop. I never liked that stop, I'll be honest with you. Okay.
I mean, I never had a problem with it. I always enjoyed that long walk down the tunnel. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a weird, giant, long tunnel that
Yes,
goes
extremely long.
to like, it goes from the train station to like a business area, right? A commercial
Yeah, you know
area.
what? I'm not even sure, but you
It's weird.
know.
All I know is there's a sushi restaurant at the end of that tunnel.
Oh,
But back
really?
back to the situation.
Okay, I'll have to
So,
check that out sometime.
which only one window was kicked out, and which side of the train was it kicked out on? The side,
Okay,
the
there was
inside or the outside?
no, there was more than one window kicked out.
Okay.
But the first one, and I think it was just a handful of windows that were kicked out.
So
And
if it's is there any
yeah,
space between the car and the bridge on the outside? Like,
no,
because
that's a good question.
because if you jump out of the window of the train, wouldn't that be safer? Because isn't which side is the third rail on? Is it on the inside or
I
the
have no
outside?
idea. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I think it was on the side that they were jumping down on, but I don't know.
So
So,
they all
you
kind
know
of
what?
jumped off on the same side.
And some people don't even know what the third rail looks like. You know what I mean? Come to think of it, I'm like, wow, I haven't looked at one in a while either. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. So anything that looks like a rail, I'm I'm very worried about the third rail. Danger, danger, third
yeah.
rail.
Did I ever tell you the story? Not to go too far off, but about my grandfather and the third rail.
No.
Oh God. Okay, so really quickly, my grandfather one day fell at Pack Street, fell onto the third rail, but he was okay because he had a wooden leg.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, they pulled him out. He was fine. It was just his wooden leg that hit it, and he ended up being in a lot of newspapers across the country for his lucky leg. They called it.
Wow.
Yeah, so the third rail, real thing. Um, they get to Wellington. Wellington again is chaos. The eyewitness I interviewed, Jennifer, she told me that T employees were getting crushed by crowds. Like it was just chaos about trying to get onto a shuttle bus. People were swearing, just being like F you," giving the finger. Complete chaos. And she ended up just walking home to Malden. Just she was like, I can't.
I, when you talked to the people who had experienced this, did you get a
Yeah.
sense they were disappointed in their fellow humankind?
I think a lot of, I mean, the Jennifer who I spoke to, she was trying to give as many interviews as possible yesterday because she's like, you know what, the T needs changes need to be made. You know what I mean? She was more concerned about just like this happening again in the future. What's the emergency protocols for communication? The lack of communication really struck her. I mean, not only at on the train, right, but also even at Wellington, which was complete chaos. So I mean, she was very concerned about just like the tea and safety, and she's like, she thought her life was in danger. You know what I mean? And many others, and yeah, she's just really worried. And then, she said it was really disturbing to see like just people panicking and just acting just not, you know what I mean, just like acting without thought, fight or flight. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, pushing. I don't know. So Tim Murphy, by the way, is a listener and viewer, and he is a chief inspector of the MBTA,
oh, no kidding.
and
Hey,
he knows what's up. He could tell us right now that he says, but I can't. But there must be something. So I understand, just like in the hearings, in the Senate hearings on January 6th, you have, executive privilege, kind of. You can't say. But there are certain things you can say, Tim. There are certain there are certain things that can be made public that we may not know. So could you tell us those while we
yeah, yeah.
speak?
Or you could contact a journalist and leave anonymous information.
You could
Not really
contact,
speak off the record.
yeah, in case you want to follow
There's
up. You should contact Emily
so
and you can be pals. She's very cool.
yeah. I'm just so happy that I've been like laughing while telling this story, but like thank God nobody was hurt. It's actually like amazing, that nobody got hurt
Okay.
or
Now,
died.
now, Joe, I believe this Joe is the Joe who also rode with us on the T all the
Oh
time.
yeah. Hey
Who is
Joe.
who is a T? That's not his picture. That's George Kennedy from one of those airplane movies.
Okay.
But he's the guy that
This
rode with
was
us.
looks a little different, but
I think, and he's a T fanatic. He knows he's a train freak, right,
mhm.
Joe? Let's admit it. You are, and he knows everything about those cars and how they work. And he says one of the problems is there's only one person operating the train. Did you ever notice that? There's not two people. Well,
Huh.
that's a thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If that's true, I mean, you would like to think there would be two, but if there's only one, that would might be a safety issue. But of course, having more T employees would skyrocket the price, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if the public really got to choose, I'm sure they'd say, we'll stick with one driver and pay less. So there you go. So like anyone else, I probably I try to walk myself through it and think how I would have reacted. I would have heard a noise and thought, oh, wow, wonder what that is. It's an old train. And then I would have seen the fire. I wouldn't be worried about an explosion because there's no fuel on there. I would have thought, oh, wow, this might be for real here. And immediately start thinking about, am I going to be the guy that gets to kick the window out? Which I'm sure the guy that kicked the window out had been dying to kick the window out all his life.
You
And here
know,
was his big break. Did you ask him
he
that?
knew where the emergency exit was.
Yeah, but for
I
some
mean,
reason,
it's
he,
important to know these things, and it's I don't know. It's just too bad that there wasn't more instructions at the beginning to make it clear that that because it turns out that the fire went out on its own. You know what I mean?
yes,
Once the
because
power was cut, it it went
right,
out. So
right. So there was
yeah,
no need for anyone to jump out, as
right,
it turns out.
right. But
And I can't
or
imagine
off the
this,
bridge.
or off the bridge. That's another thing. We'll get to that. And the T windows are not open. That's an exterior fire. There's nothing actually on fire, really, that would stay
Yeah,
on fire.
yeah.
I can't imagine there was much smoke inside.
Yeah, like I don't think so. The woman I interviewed, she took video, which is on the Globe website. You can check it out, of when she got to the second car, and again, it's chaotic. You can see people just like like jostling around and like just you know what I mean, freaking out. And there wasn't any like you couldn't see any smoke or anything like that in the second car. It was mostly the sight of flames that really made people understandably concerned, and especially for the emergency door not to open. It was, the T, the driver was able to open it. So I don't know if in the heat of the moment, that.
Are people supposed to be able to open the emergency door themselves? Because if they did, people would be going back and forth between cars all the time. I've never seen that. Maybe they're not allowed
Yeah,
to.
that's a good question. I'm not sure.
Maybe I
So
should have been a reporter. I'm kind
yeah,
of a,
no, these are good questions, Bradley. I'm gonna let Taylor, our transportation reporter, know, and we're
all
gonna be
right.
following up on this a lot,
Okay.
so for
Now,
sure.
Joe says there's emergency procedure signage. But of course, I don't remember that because no one ever pays attention, as he says. But what does it say? In case of emergency, what does it say? I don't know.
Push window or something. Isn't there like a lever or something? I don't know. It's been a
No one
while
knows.
since I've been on the orange line,
And when
so
there's a fire, no one's going to. I always thought no one's ever going to read anything when there's an emergency. Ooh, let me stop and read what to do.
right.
So
But
I always figure you swing from the hand thing
and
and
then
kick the window.
kick.
Right, that's what I figured.
Is there a picture of a little guy doing that? Like,
So I'm trying to think what I would do. I feel like I would be drawn to the side with the water and the bridge, not the side with the other trains coming and stuff like that. But it depends on what's between the train side, the window, and the bridge. Okay, let's get to the woman who jumped off. I get the sense she just felt like jumping off.
it could have been panic. It could have been something she's always wanted to do. We were, we were trying to. I mean, I don't know if she's been interviewed or anything yet. I was working on a different story today, but we were trying to figure out like who she was and everything. And when I talked to the Somerville fire chief, he said that she, number one, didn't want any help or assistance and didn't want to go on the fireboat, and wasn't very forthcoming. You know what I mean with the fire personnel. So obviously a pretty strong swimmer. I mean, she jumped all the way down and
Right.
made it down to
So
the
how
shore.
high is that? Did anyone tell you? Did the police, the fire department, anybody tell you how high the bridge is?
No, you can see like there again. You can check out the photos. You know what I mean? And it's a decent height. So. And like I said, the witness Jennifer, who I interviewed, she said that looking down, jumping down from the window, just the window to the track, was like quite a drop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing. Jumping onto the tracks from pretty high up's got to hurt.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's not like you're landing like on something smooth. And of course, there's also the concern about the third rail. And yeah, so it was definitely one of the wildest stories I've ever wrote about
Sean
the sea.
Stapleton. Sean Stapleton says 50 feet, but I have to ask you what your source is, Sean. 50 feet's pretty high.
Yeah, that is pretty high. That's
The highest I've ever jumped was 20 feet. It was over at Bow Lake when I was growing up. There used to be these gatehouses that control the dam, and we climb up on the roof and jump off. So 20 feet I was scared to death
It's
doing that.
decent. Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to jump at the Quincy quarries, which are now since filled in.
You used to do
And
the Quincy quarries?
oh yeah, well, I mean, I used to swim up there all the time when they were, when they were still quarries and not
Right.
filled in.
And
I mean, I didn't jump off the huge ones. No way. I jumped off a couple of small ones.
but people did jump off the huge ones, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And they'd have to wear sneakers because like their feet would slap the water so hard. I mean, they were very high.
That was a dangerous thing. A lot of people got killed doing that, right?
Yes.
There are
I
a
mean,
lot
there was a lot of
there are a
yeah,
lot of
but
skeletons down at the bottom of that, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you remember one time that they sent divers down. They were looking for somebody who fell in or something. They thought, that the kid was in there, and they ended up finding like a completely different body. Just
Right.
oh, like who's this? Like,
It's
I
a bad
mean,
idea to jump into unknown water because who knows? People throw stuff in there. There could be fence posts sticking up that impale you. There's
yeah, cars. Yeah,
cars. For some
cars.
reason, I picture cars. I picture grocery carts, like piles of grocery carts. I don't know why.
Probably, yeah. No, totally.
All right.
So,
Well, this is fun. I always like speaking to you because you're very professional, yet very outgoing and fun, as always. So, everyone, if you care a damn about either of us, share this, okay? Because that's
Please
we like
do.
the shares are good. And oh, by the way, was it a new? It had to be an old Orange Line car too, right? Not one of the new ones.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't
I
want
don't
to.
even know if the new Orange Line cars are even. I haven't
Yeah,
been on the T for so long.
Taylor looked up the whole entire history of the car and everything. So, definitely check out the Globe coverage. We have, I think, 3 stories that look into this like in depth, and I co-wrote like 2 of them. So yeah, it's an important issue, and like I said, thank God nobody got hurt. And we're gonna be doing a lot more coverage from here on out too. So
Okay, well, check in anytime you got anything even remotely interesting, and
all right,
we'll talk to you soon.
all right. Thanks so much, Bradley.
You're welcome.